welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting over episode 3 of Mahou Shoujo Madoka Magica. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. Alright, so this opening scene here has a boy who is apparently bedridden, and Sayaka, who's apparently working up the courage to go talk to him. So I think this sort of puts the whole context of what she was saying about how some people might be willing to risk their lives for a wish in a new light. Especially seeing as how this doesn't seem like it's the first time she's gone to the trouble of doing a favor for this guy. Additionally, the way she's acting is in contrast with how she normally does. So it seems like she really does care about this guy. Looks like Sayaka's remembering when she first fell in love with him. You know, him playing the violin, and apparently the nature of his injury is such that it prevents him from playing the violin. So back to the action. It seems like Mami has taken Madoka and Sayaka on another witch hunt, and she was once again able to kill it and subsequently impress the others. Nevertheless, she does take the time to chastise Sayaka, who says it looks fun. So Kyubey and Mami drop a little bit of lore here. The thing they just fought was a familiar rather than a witch. And even though it doesn't drop a grief seed, they do have to be killed because if they're left to their own devices, they'll become full witches in their own right. So the conversation gets a little bit tense when Madoka asks Mami what she wished for. And it becomes very clear that she was under extreme duress when she made the wish. It seems like she was dying after a car crash, and her wish was to live. So Mami's sort of acting as a cautionary tale here, where if you're going to voluntarily take the wish, you better make really sure it's something you want. So along that same line of inquiry, Sayaka's asking if she could use her wish for someone else. So Kyubei says that it's possible for her to wish for something else, for someone else rather, but Mami notably warns her against doing that. Mami declares that the motive behind the wish is the most important part. And the way she says it seems to indicate that the motive behind her wish wasn't exactly pure, spur of the moment though it was. So there's a little bit of contrast here. Mami says you should take as much time as you need to come to a good decision, but Kyubei says the sooner you do it, the better. So, for the first time, Kyubei lets slip that Madoka could become an enormously powerful magical girl. And some of that has to do with the magnitude of the wish, but for reasons that Kyubei doesn't expand upon, Madoka has all kinds of potential that's both extraordinary and untapped. So Madoka seems to be in a sort of inversion of the normal parent-child relationship where she has to take care of her mother who came home drunk. Madoka has a small talk with her dad about, well, life in general. And he drops some significant wisdom. And I guess that sort of puts Madoka's mind at ease, especially in regards to wanting to live up to Mami, but not having a specific wish in mind in order to gain the power of a magical girl. So Mami and Homura have a bit of a confrontation here, verbally. And Mami has entirely the wrong idea about things. Homura wants to prevent Sayaka and Madoka from forming a contract, And Mami thinks it's because Madoka would be more powerful than any of them, and thus be competition. It really doesn't seem like that's the case at this point, since Homura is dead set on preventing them from forming contracts, and she even goes as far as to chastise Mami for luring innocent, well, bystanders, I guess, into the magical girl life. So the plot begins to thicken again as Madoka and Sayaka happen to be at ground zero for a witch to hatch. The prudent course of action would be to run away, of course. Sayaka decides that she's going to split the party, so to speak. She'll stay and keep an eye on the grief seed while Madoka gets Mami and brings her back to fight it. So Kyubei decides to stay behind with Sayaka while Madoka goes to find Mami. And it almost seems like Kyubei has a bit of an ulterior motive just because Sayaka was thinking briefly about Kyosuke and his injuries again. So it almost seems like Kyubei is going to use this opportunity to get Sayaka to form a contract. So eventually, the grief seed does hatch and a labyrinth is formed and things become very surreal again. So immediately, Kyubei begins needling at Sayaka about forming a contract. She doesn't go for it yet, but the option is definitely on the table. Meanwhile, Madoka brings Mami back to where the grief seed was. So at this point, things are almost like a stealth mission, whereby if they're careful enough, they might be able to reach the grief seed before the witch hatches from it. The idea is that they don't have to hurry so long as they're careful. So a minor wrench gets thrown into the works with Homura showing up. Homura declares that she's hunting this witch, so the others should leave. So Mami, interestingly, takes the initiative to imprison Homura. Homura tries to give Mami and Madoka a warning about the nature of this witch, but Mami just entirely ignores her and continues on into the labyrinth. Now, Madoka and Mami sort of talk about Madoka's potential wish. Madoka's under the impression that Mami will think it's stupid, but Mami's willing to hear her out. So it seems like Madoka's wish is to be like Mami. And it's sort of like a self-fulfilling thing. The mere act of making the contract would make her like Mami. Even so, Mami's trying to dissuade her. Of course, Madoka's resolve is too strong for that. Mami's trying to dissuade her further by saying that she's really not the cool, confident person she projects herself as. And Madoka comforts her, saying that she isn't alone anymore. It's a weird moment of weakness where Madoka is the more emotionally resilient of the pair. So they sort of come to a conclusion about what Madoka should wish for. And it's ultimately pretty asinine. But the idea is that Madoka will sort of make the wish, whatever it is, after Mami destroys the witch. And sort of with this whole issue resolved where Madoka's willing to become a magical girl and fight alongside Mami, she's now very confident about her prospects. And in her mind, it's no question that she should be able to kill the witch. At the very least, she has no difficulty dispatching the various familiars. So eventually Madoka and Mami fight their way to the center of the labyrinth, where the witch is. And in contrast to the other witches we've seen so far, this one is very unimpressive, first of all, but it's animated in a style the same as the other characters, rather than being some other form of media. So Mami takes the offensive, and she's really laying into the witch. But unfortunately, the witch sort of catches her off guard. And I guess Mami kind of loses her head at the suddenness with which the witch attacks. So in pretty short order, the witch manages to kill Mami, and now Sayaka and Madoka are defenseless unless they make a contract. Fortunately and unfortunately, when Mami died, the ribbons binding Homura vanished as well. Unlike Mami, Homura is taking the witch, I would think, a bit more seriously. As a result, she was able to kill it, and now with Mami dead, there isn't much to do except for Homura to sort of chastise them, to tell them to remember that, this is what happens. You're playing for keeps. So despite Homura saving them, Sayaka and Madoka aren't too well disposed towards her. Alright, that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.